Thank you so much, Sebastian. That was an amazing keynote, very inspiring. Throughout the years, and especially in these past years, we arrived here at the South Summit, and it's kind of curious. There's always, a part of science fiction in everything that we speak on how we look into the future. And it appears that this year, everything, we wanted to look more real, We are actually, working every day with different LLMs. We are seeing how the advances in technologies throughout the years has really, really evolved. Now we use them as something completely normal. So actually my questions today are going to try to be very realistic on how to really execute that part of physical AI that you were mentioning. And you used two examples that I believe were very illustrative of the kind of things that physical AI can be doing. One is cars, obviously, and self-driving cars is something that has been going around thanks to your breakthroughs. And the other is robots. But what about those tiny machines that probably are going to be doing things for us in the background, machines that are connected to other machines and through AI are going to be enhancing our life experience, or making our lives easier? What is that ecosystem of other physical AI that is going to be there in the background, and we are going to be actually seeing it, no?
I mean, it's up to the people in the audience to invent it. What do we see? We see that we have battery technology, which means you can power pretty much everything. So at some point, my jacket, my shoes will have a battery, obviously. We have wireless technology, so we can connect things and build protocols. And in doing so, we can have this omnipresence information flow about what's happening in the world. Even if you think of LLMs as something very large, they take like hundreds of billions of documents, they only get a tiny sliver of the actual information that we produce every day, right? No one video records you, understands what you're doing, what your desires are, and your house does, your environment does. So as machines move into the environment, in your refrigerator, into your kitchen, into your car, everywhere, you're going to get this incredible new set of information sources that is be incredible.
Yeah, and for that ecosystem to be working, there's an important issue, which is technology. But as we see, technology is moving very fast pace. But then there's the execution of that. How does that work into our day-to-day? Your example with Google Car. Technology was there, you trial and error a lot, you fell into, a lake, etc. But so at some point, you needed to convince, regulators, for example, that the car really worked, that you weren't going to put people at risk. Actually, that you were actually going to be protecting people from the unconsciousness of human decisions. And that takes a lot of time. Now, technology is obviously going to be quicker and quicker now. The development of physical technology is going to be quicker and quicker thanks to the development of the LLMs. How do we navigate the path into convincing regulators and society, as a whole, which comes in turn with regulators, that these things are actually going to be useful for us and that we need to implement them as soon as possible?
So in my world, and flying cars and self-driving cars, I've always taken the position that the regulators are our friends. They have the same interests at heart. My interests are two things. I want to keep the world safe, and I want to innovate, make it a better place. And I have yet to meet a regulator that wouldn't want to keep the world safe or make the world a better place. Their mechanisms are different, right? So they can't build technology, they can only regulate technology. In the US, lucky to us, that's to be done post the fact. There's very little pre-regulation. We see technology being deployed, see where it's being misused, and then find the right set of regulations to prevent the misuse.
It's exactly the same as Europe,
Yeah, in Europe, it's a bit more pre the fact, where regulators try to figure out in advance what the misuse could be. And because they're not technologists, they sometimes make bad decisions. My most famous bad decision that you all suffer from every single day is Europeans spend 575 million hours a year accepting or rejecting cookies. Because some some bureaucrat figured that you want to not just do once your cookies, but you have to do every single time from scratch. And that's where the difference comes up. And North America is generally much slower in regulating, and as a result, more observant what the abuses are, and less proactive. And that helps a lot. Like self-driving cars is a good example. They're basically unregulated by and large, and it's up to Waymo, our company, to make sure they're safe. And they're now safer than human drivers, but they don't meet European standards on transparency and unbiasedness, explainability, and all that stuff that people here say has to exist. So it's much harder to launch them in Europe.
So, by the way, you have actually the two passports, no? The European passport and the US passport. So, I mean, I don't want to get into a regulative conversation, but we are seeing the sophistication of the technology moving very fast. So the execution of that technology into our lives is something that strikes me as very interesting. I can play devil's advocate. Probably many people here are pro-deregulating and being more innovative and faster. Probably that's my role usually. But is it not the case that there's many unknowns that we're accepting in our lives by introducing technology into our more intimate parts that might be a risk, and therefore there's an argument also for the European solution?
Look, I would say every technology has a good and a bad side, and every technology can be abused. Like you take a kitchen knife, right? It can be done for something good, like cutting my carrots, and it can be done for something really, really bad. Should we therefore disallow kitchen knives? No, we should figure out what framework to put in place to make sure that kitchen knives are not being used to attack and kill people or harm people. And the same is true for these new technologies. We have to learn, we have to observe, we have to regulate. But Europe runs into two problems that North America does not have. First, it is too proactive in regulating, often too creative, aka cookie acceptance and rejection. And second, is too fragmented, right? So Europe is the second biggest economy in the world, but you have too many jurisdictions where laws are not quite compatible and where people can't really build a global company as easily. Whereas North America, just by its sheer size, and China as well, is much more capable to build a global company. Tech companies want to be global. They can't be local. A tech company wants to be global. When you're a global tech company, you get a synergy and a network effect that you cannot replace with local tech companies. And there's no local tech company that you know of that's really, really important, that I know of. The global tech companies right now come from two places, Silicon Valley, North America, and from China.
Yeah. Now, when we interact with our LLMs throughout our day's work, I guess we all do now, we are strangely, at some point we're actually speaking sometimes to human voices, or we are having human reactions actually with those LLMs. I wanted to explore with you that human side. No? When we expand this to to interacting with our car, or even to interacting with a robot, and I always wonder, why humanoids actually have human figures. I wonder if it's because it's useful, to have 2 hands and 2 legs and a face, or because we just want them to appear to look like us, no? Because probably there's other practical uses that don't need those kind of appendages, no? But my point being is, how do we bring humanity into kind of this shift, this change of accepting physical AI, or even digital AI, which still there's a big step, because we even baptized artificial intelligence as an intelligence, just for the sake of being closer to it and comparing it to the human intelligence. But really, there's a big distance between one kind of intelligence and the other. No?
Look, I'm excited about it. We had a somewhat similar turnover about 150-ish years ago when we moved from a farming society, agricultural society, into an office society. Germany, at least 200 years ago, 95% of people worked in farming, and now it's less than 2%. That was unfortunately, it took more time. It's not just steam engines, it's also like nitrogen fertilization and modern irrigation stuff. But we now have very few farmers. And the machines, by and large, are much stronger than people are. So if you're defining yourself with your muscles, these machines are stronger than you. Okay. Now the same is going to happen much faster for intellectual things. And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to use it to our advantage. We're going to make people more people-like, and we're going to spend more time being creative, being with other people, interacting. Right now, if you look at the time wasted by repetitive work that we shouldn't be wasting, like data entry clerks, or to some extent lawyers, like highly paid people, where if you free this up, you could turn them into teachers, and something that's really useful for people and cannot be replaced easily by machines. I see there's a path there, but it's going to be a calling for all of us. It's not going to be easy. Okay, so we have to be part of the solution. We want to be not under the tsunami, but on the tsunami, riding the tsunami. It's going to be really, really fast, and it's going to have winners and losers. And it's important that we largely are open-minded to really exploring what it means to have this technology in our lives, because it's unstoppable. It's going to happen. And for most part, it's going to make our lives much, 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 much better.
That brings me into a topic that I'm particularly interested in, obviously, which is education. So Sam Altman was at a university a couple of years ago when he launched ChatGPT. And we had a small conversation, and I asked him some philosophical questions about what about, where is the people going to be left and individuals going to be left in this disruption. No? And he told me, look, they're going to have more free time to think better. And then, which is, it's a great,
It's true.
But the point is that how do you learn to think? So when you're a journalist, you learn to think by writing small pieces at the newspaper that are probably going to be written or are written already every day by an AI. When you're a consultant, by doing PowerPoint presentations, that's the way you structure your mind, and now it's going to be done by an AI. When you're a lawyer, by drafting very simple contracts, and that's the way you develop your way of thought until there's a point in which you become a partner, and all that experience, you put it into something that is impactful for your company. Now, there's a gap between how we learn and where this technology is actually, coming. And so my question for you is, what do we educators, how do you see educators playing a role in trying to mind that gap?
Yeah, first of all, anybody in the audience, ask yourself, did your parents and your teachers really prepare you for the job that you have today? Because the answer is likely not. The jobs today are so different from the jobs in a generation ago. It's still a great question. What you teach kids and young people is most important. I come up with 3 things that I really care about, that I tell everybody, if you're good at these 3 things, you're in a good position to win. One is grit, the ability to see something through and be able to focus on it. The second is curiosity, the ability to be open-minded and learn about yourself and new things, and also admit mistakes. And the third one is empathy, to be able to deal with other people. And those will never go away, to be honest. And if these 3 things are there, I think you have a basis to act on. Just take it with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and actually what teachers, what you learn in class is a part of your academic experience, It's actually about being creative, being social with people, in our case, from different cultures and perspectives, which allows you to have a better understanding of the world. It's about being creative, being innovative. So I think those things need to play into the new roles of educators, but also the humanistic approach. Being able to understand yourself, being able to, at the end, it's through philosophy, history, culture in general, that you're going to be better fit to understand who you are in the world and what this kind of technologies really are and what they aren't, and try to fill your space there. No? But anyhow, I wanted to ask you a last question because we are running out of time. But my question is about, I used to hear that AI was actually substituting the white-collar class, let's call it that way. All these LLMs basically are able to do very sophisticated things that usually white-collar workers were the ones that they were doing it, no? But today, seeing your presentation, I thought that actually those robots are going to be doing also the other, the physical work, which for the moment I didn't think that was at discussion. So no, I wanted to only hear in a couple of minutes your views on that.
First of all, coming back to humanities, I think humanities are more important now than ever before.
Yep.
And I would love to engage much more in social science and humanities. Unfortunately, in academia, that is hard to do. I'll give you one data point. Between the time movie theaters showed up and film became a cultural phenomenon in the world, and the very first appointment of a film professor was 70 years. So I hope that people can wake up and be faster and work with us technologists. In terms of physical labor, we are in a singularity, and everything is accelerating.
Yeah.
To the point that it's really hard to even predict the next 12 months. But now we live in a world where it seems completely within reach that we can take most human physical jobs and automate them. And if you don't believe it, just remember the CCTV videos that I showed you. They did not exist a year earlier. And just imagine, give China yet another year, what's going to happen in moment manipulation, where are we going to go? That is now conceivable and feasible and will happen in the next maybe 5 years or so. And then we have to really go back and ask ourselves, okay, how can we utilize this for the benefit of everybody? How can we make sure we distribute correctly, we keep people safe, maybe have universal basic income to make sure that everybody benefits?
Yeah. Well, we've run out of time. Thank you so much. It was a super interesting conversation, and we hope to see you very soon back in Madrid.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.